Yes, that is my one word review. I recommend this movie. That means stop watching the review, stop watching trailers, go and watch it. The trailer was shown when I went to see Evil Dead Rise, and as I was watching I was thinking, damn, this has got to be the most simple story for a horror movie of all time. Then the title was revealed, The Boogeyman. Okay, well that makes sense. This is the most simple horror premise of all time, so the simple story made sense, and honestly, it looked like it was made pretty well. I knew for it to be enjoyable though, the visuals needed to be top notch. Cinematography, lighting and editing would all have to carry the film where the story wouldn't be able to. Not only was all of that as excellent as I'd hoped, the characters were also very enjoyable. And the sound design was fantastic. There's no cheapness or laziness about the whole thing, no obnoxious and pointless jump scares. Don't get me wrong, there are jump scares, but they all feel earned. And it does a couple little things to keep you surprised. All of this led to some very creepy moments and an absolutely solid film all around. It's akin, maybe ironically, to the first John Wick, where we saw that you don't need a new or even particularly good plot to have a great movie. You can just keep your story simple if you tell it well enough. The Boogeyman 2023 is an excellent and cared about film that stands out from a lot of the passionless cash grabs we too often see in this modern day. 4 out of 5. Moving on to full spoiler discussion. This movie isn't really receiving the greatest reviews and I don't get it. Taste in movies obviously is pretty subjective, I understand that, but if you're going into a movie called The Boogeyman, you get a very well made movie about the Boogeyman and you leave disappointed, that's on you, man. What were you expecting? Moving on from that, I do actually have 2 very minor complaints to make. Number 1, in the scene where the shotgun is fired right next to her ear, that should have absolutely been a problem. Her ears should have been ringing hard and she should have been deaf for the rest of the scene. I've had a Glock fired right next to my ear and that cooked me up for 15 minutes, let alone a whole ass shotgun. They could have made it affect her without altering the plot at all, you know what I mean? She could have been stumbling around the house and getting outside. It wouldn't have changed the story in any way. It would have just been a cool way to end that scene in particular and would have been a nice little touch. Number 2, right at the end when the house is on fire, the camera pulls back as the family watches it burn, and then it cuts them in therapy. The cut was cool because they're sitting in the same position, but I just wish it held on that shot for a bit longer. Maybe another 10 seconds before it cut. That was the climax of the film, and it was an awesome looking shot. Just would have been nice to keep us there just a little bit longer. And here's another complaint. If you're about to go to the movies, I want you to stop and ask yourself this question. Am I a dickhead? If you come to the conclusion of yes, then stay home. I got some teenagers down the bottom here laughing away. This chick to my right sharing with the audience how she feels. I'm scared. My heart is really pounding right now. Wait, what did he say? Mate! 2 times did I tell this prick to put a sock in it. A 3rd time, the Boogeyman would have been the least of your worries. And genuinely, that's the end of my complaints. I like that the movie used a pretty unknown cast. Apparently the girls, Sophie Thatcher and Vivian Blair, are both in some Disney Plus Star Wars shows, which I don't care about. But aside from that, it's good seeing people on screen that you haven't seen before. It helps in immersion. Everyone was awesome in the movie, props to the actors, but specifically Miss Blair, the younger kid, she had some genuinely unexpected funny lines, which gave a much needed release of tension in moments. The filmmakers were able to pull off some surprises like this. There are a couple of scenes where you think, alright, it's going to end here. But then it kind of just keeps going. For instance, the tooth pulling scene. Afterward, the sisters are sleeping next to each other in bed, and the music sort of builds up and you expect it to cut to the next day. But then it just keeps rolling and the camera smoothly moves down to the tooth on the ground as it's pulled back by the string into the cupboard. Unexpected, epic, and it disturbingly ties in later. Little moments like that where it's like, hey bro, it could have been more generic and sort of, there you go, bang, bang, bang. But no, it keeps you sort of on edge at all times pretty much because of these little twists that it does with the little bits of comedy and the unexpected continuations of these scenes leading into something else that wasn't necessarily going to be there or particularly necessarily at first thought. There were even a couple of times during the big scare moments when crazy things would be flashing on screen. I wanted to pause these moments and go frame by frame to see what the hell we were looking at because it was such a trip. And I look forward to picking this up on Blu-ray someday just so I can do that. Now, to the creature itself. We see that it is a physically powerful creature in comparison to a regular human, and that light doesn't physically hurt it. So you might wonder, what's its deal, man? Why is it hiding in the shadows and picking on kids like a little bitch ass? Well, consider this, alright? Picture back in medieval times, Witcher kind of vibes. We've got werewolves and other creatures of the night running around all over the place. Let's say we've got a whole species of boogeyman creatures. They make themselves known, go into the town and start killing, hunting, eating. Guess what's going to happen, mate? All the hunters and people of the town are going to fight back and start killing them. So back in the day, that's what happened, right? They were hunted and killed by the masses of men and almost taken to extinction. So the last few that survived became afraid of the light, associating it with death. So now, even though one could easily just go around the house in the daylight and kill and eat whoever it wants, its survival instincts tell it to be overly cautious, stay hidden, and hunt slowly. But that's just a theory. Alright, you want theories? You want theories, bro? Check this out. We're turning the Boogeyman 2023 into a mini franchise. And this is how you do it. Obviously, we start with this movie, okay? And we've got our main character. She's pretty smart, you know, and that's what she uses as a strength going forward, is her brain power. At the end of this movie, we see that there is still another boogeyman out there, or maybe even several other, and maybe some other kind of monsters as well. But she closed the door, not wanting to be any part of it, and the movie ends. But we'll come back to that later. For now, we go to the next movie, which is a pretty different situation. We follow a guy who starts off kind of unlikable and afraid, and he has to move past his fear and stand up to a physical threat. Hey, it might even be a movie that, I don't know, I'm even filming right now, titled Never Fear Man. Can't say for sure, but for argument's sake, let's use this. The next movie is actually 2 movies in one. Now, it might end up just being 2 movies. We'll have to see how it goes in the writing process, you know. There'll either be not enough for 2 movies or too much for 1 movie. But anyway, that's sorted out later. We've got both characters, okay? We've got Sadie from the Boogeyman. She's changed her mind about turning her back on the other boogeymen. She decides she can't have other kids go through what she did, what they did, what her sister did, what the family did, and she tries to become a monster hunter kind of geezer, right? She goes on the hunt and uses her brains to eventually overcome the creature she's hunting. However, it's a real challenge, and she only just makes it, recognizing she had a real issue with her physicality. She didn't quite have the power to efficiently take out the threat. At the same time, the other guy, let's call him Caden, from the events of his movie has decided to become a monster hunter guy, but he deals with it way more physically, having let go of his fear almost to the point of danger, right? Or not even almost, to the point of danger. He's just going in there, he's fighting the boogeyman. He ain't even turning the lights on, bro. He's, let's go, boom, boom, fighting this freaking, you know, let's say if it's in the boogeyman, that's what he's doing, fighting this creature, boom, 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 left hook, right hook, boom, uppercut, boom, destroying this creature. But he's getting licked up as well because he's not using his brains to fight the creature. He's just using his physicality. So he overcomes the monster he's hunting, but only just, recognizing that if he is to continue, he needs to be much smarter about all this. And at the end of the movie, or one of their movies, or both, because they're happening at the same time, and they share an ending from a different perspective and shot differently, because that would be sick. Okay, picture that. Picture that, right? They're 2 different movies, but the ending for each movie is the same, but like shot differently from different perspectives. So it doesn't matter which movie you watch first, because they have the same ending, and you watch the Boogeyman sequel first, you're like, whoa, bro, that's a cool ending. I know that guy from Never Fear Man. And then you watch the Never Fear Man sequel, you're like, whoa, bro, that's the chick from the Boogeyman, and you see exactly the same ending, but from different sides. It's like the Pokemon games where you choose red or blue or freaking green or pink or whatever the damn things are. Same games, but different versions. Well, these are different movies, but the same ending, different thing. You understand, right? It'd be sick, man. But they come together, somehow, they meet each other, and they realize they both still want to be monster hunters, and they could combine forces, her brain, his brawn, and continue this line of work. The next movie is them hunting monsters together and kicking ass. So, there you go. That's the Boogeyman franchise. Rob Savage, when Never Fear Man is released, when you've watched it, hit me up. Let me know if we should join forces. That's how we do it, fam.